Well, welcome to a new Harry's Farm video. It's been a couple of weeks since I last did one, and all sorts of things have changed since then. The weather in particular, that has meant the crops have really gone on from where they were last time with us. And yeah, the government has been mucking about, and the rumour mill is going full tilt at the moment. But yeah, on the farm I've been doing a lot of mowing. I've had to do topping, as we term it, but it's all those grass margins that we put in. They grew, but you get weeds sort of coming up, you get thistles coming up, you get volunteer wheat and that sort of thing. So I've been right round and I've topped it all, and that will encourage the grass to sort of tiller out and grow, and it will hurry some of the weirdly the wildflowers. They will grow because they're lower and they weren't fully grown yet, and they'll come up as well. But what I'm going to do now, I've just driven across the grass and I've arrived at my failed wheat that looks very different after all this rain, and it's time to eat a bit of humble pie. I can't believe how much this has changed over the last few weeks. This was my failed crop of wheat, and it doesn't really look like a failed crop anymore. And so I'm gobsmacked how good this now looks. I mean, it's not a stellar crop of wheat that I'm going to enter this field into sort of competition and saying, look how good this wheat looks. No, but it's transformed from where we were at the beginning of the sort of spring period when the so-called drought got going. And I'll just remind you of the numbers on the rainfall. So what we were worried about, that we were actually going to be worse rainfall than the infamous year of 1976 that was hottest year on record or whatever. And in 1976 it was 40.7 mil of rain for the months of March, April and May, the sort of critical spring period. And we're on to do that. Last time I reported it was 30.5 mil, and that was on the 18th of May. And we actually ended up with 41.7 mil for those 3 months. So we didn't quite match 1976, but we almost did. But since my last report, we've had 34.3 mil of rain, and June alone, and today is only the 8th of June, where we've had 23 mil this month alone. So complete change on all the crops. The crops have responded to it, and everything looks pretty good, really. What I cannot get over this year, that we got the timing of the fertiliser right, and this isn't a stress crop in any way. If you look at it, it is green, the flag leaf is not curled up, there's no scorch on it. That is unfortunately, I think, a wild oat, so I don't really want to show you that. But it is as good as it could be, this crop, and it's extraordinary, the turnaround and what a bit of rain can do. And dear Mrs. M, who's holding the camera, is rolling her eyes because she's had 40 years of me coming up, oh, it's just a disaster, it's going to be hopeless, and then the weather changes and it gets better. I had written off this field. The agronomist actually told me to rip it up and do something else with it. I persevered, didn't put any fertiliser around the outside, didn't actually do any herbicide, I don't think. Then we had the drought period, we should call it April and May, and it wasn't dying away, it was looking all right. And then when we came to put the final dose of nitrogen on, we decided to put the proper dose on this field, and it has responded incredibly well. So out of, I think it's only 118 acres I think we had of wheat we actually drilled, and I thought I was going to harvest about 100 acres. I put that up to 110 acres now, so I brought this back in, and I've actually shoved the yield up overall the farm by 0.1 of a tonne per acre, all of which means my predicted profit has doubled since the last time I did a report. It has not gone back to where we budgeted in September last year, but no longer can I say, oh, we're not going to be combining this field. So yeah, it's incredible how it changed, how it's responded to this amount of rain. And we just don't, I have no idea this year what it's actually going to yield, because it is a bit thin, it hasn't tilled out properly, but we have enough moisture now, basically, it doesn't really matter what the weather does, because it's just flowering, as we term it in wheatland, and then we'll get grain set. And there's enough moisture now, really, to get a true grain field. Anyway, we're going to wander off. Other things have responded to this rain. We're going to have a look at the wild bird mix, but I also just want to show you the enhanced stubble, as it's termed, the set aside, and just see what's happened there. So this in here is this enhanced overwinter stubble. So this land has basically been rested a year, and we came in and we sprayed off all, there's black grass growing here, there's various weeds growing, and we're allowed to do that before on the 15th of May. And this will be going into wheat next year. And this is like a break crop. This is the idea of all this SFI and countryside stewardship schemes, was to rest the land to increase productivity and just looking after the land better. And weirdly, that's what this is all about, even though it doesn't look, you know, a great field. But this is, yeah, this looks good. It's a really good kill. And funny thing is, I would now like to put some muck on this or something like that. I've been talking to Caleb, he's coming in to spread muck. But looking at the rules of regs, we can't go do anything to this field until the 29th of July, so quite late. And there's silage happening now, but it's just one of those jobs. It would be quite nice to do. And some of the frustrations with SFI and stewardship are, okay, we do these things, but they're very date specific, and it doesn't always match to how you work, how you'd normally work if you were freer. But I suppose it's one of the things. I can't complain, I signed up to it, but it's just one of those jobs I'd like to be getting on with, and I'm intrigued to know how well this works as a break. And be able to rest the land a year, I mean, it has grown this up, so there'll be worm activity underneath, and then to be able to put muck on and to incorporate it, and then to be able to put a wheat in would be ideal. But unfortunately, the rules don't allow me to do it, which is a bit of a pain. Anyway, let's have a look at the wild bird mix. Well, this is the field with the wild bird mix in, and yeah, after 30 odd, this has had 30 odd mil of rain on it since we planted it, and I'm quietly chuffed with that it did start to go away. I did plant it quite deep, and I can now see various things coming up, and I can't recognise them all. I think that's a bit of millet, that one. It looks like a maize, but I don't think it is. I think that's millet. And I've seen the odd sunflower. Now I've turned the camera on, I will not be able to find a sunflower. But I've also got this mustard, and if you look at this is, yeah, you see how the flea beetle, like we get on oilseed rape, it's very similar plant. Mustard is obviously a type of rape, oilseed rape. So they like that, and you can see how much damage they've got. They don't care that it's not a food crop and it's a wild bird mix. They will chew all of that willy-nilly, and it's a right pain how much they've actually damaged it. But I'm hoping it's warm soil, and yeah, with a bit of sunlight it will grow away. You can see it looks pretty healthy, but my goodness, they're absolutely hammering it in places. Another minute there. I wanted to find a sunflower. There's plenty of sunflowers. I don't think these are sunflowers, I think they're another mix. The trouble when you do a mix, a wild bird mix like this, there's so many various seeds in the mix, it's hard to recognise whether you actually, these all grow in here of what I've actually put in, spun onto the ground for the wild bird mix, or whether it's just weeds coming up. We will know in a few more weeks' time. But you've got to remember, this crop is for wild bird mix come over sort of December, January time. So it's got a lot of growing to do, and then it will senesce as it normally does in September, October, and that's when the seeds will set. There's a sunflower. There's a sunflower. There you go. Found one. So yeah, there's quite a mix of sunflowers coming in, quite distinctive, the leaf on it. But there's plenty of those about, and there's some more mullered mustard as well, with the flea beetle absolutely hammering it. Yeah, there you go. Right, let's go and have a look at some wheat, and I haven't spoken about the grassland really this year, so we'll go down and have a look at that as well. Yeah, there's more wheat here as well. It looks fine here. I'm a little embarrassed by an amount of weed coming up. I think the dry spell, the weeds got away. We did try and hit them, but not quite as well as I would have hoped. But generally, looking around the farm, I can't get over how much the wheat has come back. And part of the frustration and the fun with farming is, this is my 40th harvest. And I cannot tell you what that field is going to yield. I know it's not going to be the better record yield, but it has all those plants there, but they haven't tilled out as much. But wheat is a very clever plant. All it wants to do is produce seed, and I have a suspicion the ears seem to be quite big, and if you get really good grain set, then you're going to get yield that way. So each plant will produce more grain or more weight of wheat than perhaps it would like last year, when we had an enormous amount of straw growth, huge real green growth, but not very much in the ear. It was so wet and not a lot of sun that it didn't actually produce the yield that you thought you got from this blanket of wheat, really thick, or you were growing mainly straw. So that's the sort of fun bit with farming. You honestly don't know what it's going to be like until you put that combine in the field and you find out your yield off the yield monitoring. You either go yay, or oh well, there's always next year. We're a bit in that boat at the moment. But yeah, I've come down to the grassland down here and just explain. I haven't done anything about the beef or the sheep that do graze this land here. I rent it out to David New, who farms, and he has a number of farms he deals with, and including mine. So the stock aren't here year round and then put in the sheds over the winter and that sort of thing. They come in here at certain times of the year. But let's just have a look at the grass. Now all the grass up here is organic grass. It's never had any fertiliser on it, and there's quite a mixed sward on here. There's all sorts. So I wouldn't say this is the best bit of grass just here, but you just see, look at the amount of different types of grass we've got. Yeah, Stanley likes it down here as well. All sorts. Fescues, cocksfoot, endless. There's no real ryegrass here, and that's what sort of bulks it out. It's quite a lot of buttercups, which does go quite yellow, this field. I probably should have shown you a better bit of field. But anyway, this is the mix we have here. There's a bit of clover in here as well. You can just see here's quite a lot of clover. And this is all being left. One of the things with the stewardship I've got, species-rich grassland, and we get something called a haymaking supplement as well. So this is actually being left to bulk up, and then we'll take a cut off it. And again, I have to work to the dates of SFI and countryside stewardship. So we are not allowed to do anything to this field. Well, some of the field which isn't got haymaking supplement on it is by the 1st of July. With the haymaking supplement, we have to wait until the 5th of July before we can cut it. So it's got a few weeks to bulk out yet, and then it will be cut. And then after that, we will start grazing it. But yeah, it's an interesting year, this one, because again, the grass was not growing at all. And it's a shame it's sort of coming to head without the bulk. Something that's I think we're going to be very short of this year is going to be straw, because all the wheat is about, I don't know, 6-8 inches shorter than last year, perhaps even a foot. And the grass on this sort of brash that hasn't had the moisture, it's been so dry, didn't put much leaf out. It's just put the head out, and that's it. It hasn't got a lot of bulk on it, so there's not going to be a very high yield. And you want the sugars, it's all in the leaf where the goodness is, rather than when it's like this. You should, as one farmer once said to me, you must stop grass having sex. So once it's gone that, it's sort of done everything, and it sort of stops growing. So we've got to wait a while before we can bulk it out, really. But this grass, once we cut it, I would love to do an earlier cut than the SFI allows me, because then there's enough moisture there and it would bulk out and it would provide good grazing. But again, can't do that. And the final bit I want to show you is just behind over there, and that's the borage. And here is the borage that has just gone berserk in this rain. It arrived just at the right time. Last time I was here, those little seeds, very dry seabed. I was worried that they wouldn't all survive if the drought continues. Not a bit of it. Borage is a tough old plant, and look at it. All self-set. So this we didn't drill. This comes up every year now, and it's dense enough to sort of smother everything. I have topped it in the past, and that just gets rid of thistles and things, but this is pretty good when you think this is completely self-set. And this is another area, it's like a grass margin, it's area taken out of production, and it's just great. Look at the amount of bees on it. They find it. It is absolutely buzzing, this field, with bees, honeybees there, bumblebees over there, all sorts. I'm quietly chuffed with this because it's sort of natural now. This is what grows in this field. But I can't help, that's sort of what's happening in the bubble of the farm, but there are outside events that are worrying all farmers in the UK and a bit of Europe as well, that the politicians are sort of fiddling all around. We got left alone for many years and we got on with the job of growing food. Brexit happened, they wanted to change the way the farm support was working. It was going to be for the greater good, going to do all these environmental schemes, and we've adjusted the farm. I've entered a 5-year agreement all the way to 2029, and I'm right in it now. And then I did that video how the government suddenly shut off the SSI scheme with half an hour's notice, poof, down. Yes, they had to open it slightly for a number of applicants who were in process, but they were limited to a capped figure. I think it was £9,300, which was the average of all the things. And since then, nothing. And they say they're going to announce it later. And then The Guardian last week ran a story because they had heard there's a spending review happening this week on Wednesday, and DEFRA are not going to get the budget that they have at the moment, and all the payments are going to be cut, and they're only going to continue for small farms. No one knows what small farms definition is, and I can't believe it. I've entered in good faith a 5-year scheme. This is what the government wanted to do. They encouraged farmers. They almost, I'm going to say force you to do it, but it was the way of travel. And it made sense because we'd had those couple of bad harvests. Okay, well, let's try this scheme. Let's see if we can do these more environmentally friendly way of farming, taking the land out of production and then going back in. Food security, food prices, wheat price continues to drop. So maybe it's all right. They haven't gone berserk because of it. But suddenly, and I'm waiting for this week's announcement. I'm not going to get too, worked up about it until I know the facts. So I don't want to just work on hearsay. But if they are going to change, well, I've got 5 years, I think, in it. But then I know in the small print they could give me 6 months' notice and cancel them all. So is my thing going to continue? Well, as I say, I'm going to find out as the weeks tick by. But God, it's frustrating. You think you're set on a journey with farming, you've adjusted the farm in the way that you're encouraged for the government, and then complete change. If they take SFI away, and if they give me 6 months' notice, I have no alternative to go back to it as intensive farming as I can make it, because the grain prices come down. The only way I can run the farm as a business is to intensify output. And if I am now, also looking at any alternative to that idea, but that's the initial gut reaction. We're going into full-scale food production again. All the nature schemes get ripped out. It does make no sense leaving land with growing nothing for a year. Break crops. It all gets very complicated again, and a complete mindset change. In a way, I don't want to do it. But I'm not going to discuss what I'm investigating as an alternative until I actually know that is the direction of travel. Because I'm very keen to continue doing exactly as I am for the 5 years while the world settles down, net zero sort of calms down, we get a better way forward. That's my hope, eternal optimist. And by 29, I think I'll have a clearer travel path that would make more sense. And I want to wait till then. I hate having to make these adjustments when everything's been thrown up in the air and we have Trump doing tariffs, etc. But I worry about the current government just not realising the consequences of some of the things they are doing, and with the trade agreements and that one with America and suddenly letting all this ethanol in, and I just don't think they realised they were wiping out 2 ethanol plants in the UK by doing that, making it tariff-free from the US. We then saw this plunge in grain prices. Do they know they're doing that? EU farmers are really fighting because they're about to do a tariff-free deal with Argentina, Brazil, down there, and that's going to allow tariff-free hormone-enhanced meat to come into the EU. So they're all protesting over that as well. That if it gets to the EU, they're looking, or the current government is looking to do closer links with the EU, so that will let it into the UK. Oh, for goodness sake. And it's like it's so hard to concentrate on what's good for UK PLC as a farmer. I want to produce food. And I want to do these enhanced schemes. I love having this borage here. I love this idea of this. It was a tricky field. It faces north, didn't produce much food. I would much rather that be compensated and have this borage here and have the bees very happy and then be able to pollinate everywhere else, and these sort of wild areas. That's where I want to be. But that's it for this video. Next video, well, we'll know the facts, and if SFI is going to work, we'll find out what this spending review means for DEFRA and whether it's all changed or not. But since the last review, yes, it's rained, transformed the farm, much happier from that point of view. Let's see what the next couple of weeks bring. So thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. Thank you very much to everyone who has subscribed. I think we're 162,000 subscribers. Fantastic. Let's see when we get to 250,000 by the end of the year. And if you have subscribed and you have enjoyed this video, don't worry, there's more videos coming on very soon.